Start streaming.
Bye.
Act professional. I said act professional. Well, I'm asking you to. Either do that or get out. Don't be crazy. Okay, then act professional. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Under Construction. In the background, I have Audrey. She's a menace, darn kid.
I am not a darn kid.
Yeah, you are. Working on Tolbrand, starting a little late today because I had to go and get Audrey, who is a menace and a darn kid.
Do not say that.
And I forgot it was Thursday. Listen, man, I also forgot it was Thursday. And Matt, you are not late because I am late. I'm not sure if that counts. I woke up thinking it was Friday. I started getting ready. I started getting everything at work ready for a typical Friday, like my timesheet, things like that. And I got, not halfway through it, but I got much further into it than I should have gotten. And I went, wait a minute, what did I do on Thursday? Oh, I didn't do anything on Thursday because that's today. That's right now. Thursday is currently happening. So I then had to switch gears and go and do my Thursday things. I thought I was the only menace child who cheating on me. No, Matt. You know full well there are many menace children among us. In the Iron Horseman and outside of it. And Audrey managed to pick the dog up.
I did, everybody. He's a good boy.
He is a good boy.
He's a good boy.
I definitely got a little overzealous with the trees here. Was up, Maddie or Katie S. I almost said Maddie S. He said a mongoose? A mongoose.
A mongoose. What's a mongoose, everybody? What is a mongoose?
A mongoose.
A mongoose. Among Us. I know what Among Us is, but
Yeah, it's over there.
It's a Among Us character.
Anyway, gonna be sort of spitballing on some things today. Did a lot of AI work.
It's not today. It's nighttime.
Well, I wouldn't say Maddie, yes, yeah. I wouldn't say I did a lot of AI work off camera. I don't have a full stack of diamonds or anything, but I did do some AI testing, and I've sort of run into a problem with the AI testing, and it has everything to do with my own ambitions. Well, I ran into two problems. One of them definitely has everything to do with my own ambitions. The other one has more to do with sort of game quirks and how the game handles areas that are not directly loaded. Because I feel like it does some pretty fast calculations for stuff that is in the map but that you cannot see. AI trains that are working... Careful, please. AI trains that are working in areas that the camera is not focused on. The reason... Patty B... yeah, it's probably supposed to be used for water. I've never used it. But yeah, so the
more trees?
the me problem is as follows. I get bored. Is what it boils down to. I get bored when I'm testing the AI, and so I figure, well, is there something else I can do or have happen earlier in the AI's run? You know, do I have any trains that I can start running at 5 that I haven't programmed yet, or start running at 6 even, that I haven't programmed yet? And the answer is almost always yes, because I don't have everything figured out. But, you know, if I am, for instance, testing the intermodal switcher in Olive, that doesn't start for about an hour at least, depending on how quickly the intermodal train can get down from the VMR and pull into Olive. I can start the simulation and let it run, and an hour later, then check on it and see, okay, is this working well? And usually the answer is no. But since I get distracted, I start looking around and I start looking at other things, and I start building out the AI for other things that happens before that hour is elapsed. Hey, Kevin. And then I run into the problem of, oh, now stuff is failing before it even gets to the thing that I'm interested in. Now I'm having to reset the scenario before an hour has gone by. The I had a name for this. It's like the success time or something like that. I came up with a name for it earlier. See, Audrey. Um, I said see ya, Audrey,
Bye
because you
bye,
said bye
everybody.
bye.
Have a great day.
The sort of yeah, the success time gets earlier. So I'm testing something that's an hour out, and I end up having to shut down the session half an hour in because every single time something else goes wrong that I've decided to program, even though that's not what I was focusing on. I just wanted something else to happen within the first hour. Uh, I feel like the failure is not an option. Quote is good here. Oh no, failure is an option. There are failures here every day of every week. That sucks. I'm sorry, baby. Um, I mean, yeah, kinda. I don't want you. I don't want you to suffer. Um, Gloria's having gastric distress. But no, yeah, absolutely failure is an option, and that's the thing. It's that failure is an option way too often. And I have to go, well, damn it, now I have to go and fix like one or two commands. Time to cancel the session and reload it. Not only is this causing sort of unique problems with the interlocking towers, which don't really like what I'm doing in a general sense with the loading in and out of the map, not only is that causing unique problems that I've never seen before, I am never getting to the part of the programming that I think is a problem, and so I never know. Um, and I tried to get around this last episode by starting the AI early. I didn't start it as early as I would have liked. But also, I did run into a problem then, and I've corrected it, but I haven't had the chance to see if those corrections actually meant anything. I don't know if the changes that I made last episode are a change for the better or for the worse, because the scenario is not making it to that point anymore. Um, why is it not making it to that point? Well, because I'm not entirely sure, but I think it has something to do with some passenger trains that I was working on. Um, and some other, like, unrelated errors. Now, those unrelated errors are actually kind of important here because that means that the 50% of time that it doesn't, 50% of time that I don't run into something that I've just created giving me a headache, I run into this other weird problem that seems to crop up when stuff is not loaded in, which is that in going to couple the locomotive and the car it is trying to couple to will clip through one another and derail. And it only happens when I'm not looking. I've never witnessed it happen because that's not how that works. It's only doing unloaded stuff. And I'm wondering if I can solve it with some sort of command, or if at least I can find like an autosave command that will make it so that if that happens again, I can see if it's even remotely repeatable, because so far it has not been. Um, so far it has been a total toss-up, 1 out of every 20 times I run the session, something derails like that. Um, I don't know what causes it exactly, and I don't know how to remedy it. Hey, Shoreline. Um, but that's where I'm at with the AI stuff. That's why we're not starting with AI, other than the fact that we're starting late. Um, and that's why I'm probably not going to be doing very much AI today in general, because it's the lead time on getting to something that I'm actually not sure about is long. It's a good hour at least, if it makes it that far without something else cocking up, something unrelated. I found a jointed rail settings doodad, which currently had selected to disable physics on rail cars that were stationary, and I'm wondering if that has anything to do with it. I mean, it wouldn't necessarily explain why it happens only when I'm not looking, but if it does explain why it happens, that is a pretty big step in the right direction, if you ask me. Now, to this point, I have not really been able to test it with that setting enabled, or disabled, as it were, because I sort of got tired and fed up last night and went, this might fix it, and then I logged off and went to bed. And logged off and went to bed. I got off of Trainz and I played some Mashinki because I felt like I wanted to give that. I've been playing a lot of OpenTTD, which is something I want to talk about. Um, but it's Mashinki is. I've talked about Transport Fever being the closest thing to a modern day locomotion or OpenTTD, but Mashinki is probably actually closer. Um, at least if you are concerned with style. And to Mashinki's credit, I have not reached a point in that game where you snowball too hard. And that's some of you may know that's one of the things I dislike the most about tycoon games that have an open sandbox world is that you get to the point where money stops mattering. And yeah, that still probably will happen. But considering they keep adding new currencies as you advance through the eras, I can put in, many hours in a Mashinki save before I get to a point where I even feel like I could be gaining on the idea of having more money than I know what to do with. I'm always trying to build something else. Um, and it's not because I feel under time pressure, it's because I feel legitimately under financial pressure. I am constantly trying to figure out how to get more money out of what I've built, and I am constantly trying to figure out how to get the different currencies, because, like I said, there are multiple, the different tokens, I suppose, out of my current system and out of potential new extensions. You really have to care about return on investment. And I like games where you really have to care about return on investment, where you have to sort of plan ahead or at least think ahead a little bit instead of throwing down something and getting bank off of it. If I wanted a sandbox mode, I would just play a sandbox game. And that leads me back to OpenTTD, which is fairly sandboxy. Now, the thing that OpenTTD has going for it, which raises its difficulty like no other game in its genre, is the massive multiplayer. And you can do, and I know it's not massive, but it's pretty damn big. Um, and I like that a lot. I wish more tycoon games had something like that. And I'm sure we all do. But the thing about OpenTTD and its multiplayer. Did I burn my tongue? Is that unless you mess with the settings pretty substantially, it is still basically a sandbox. You can throw down a passenger train between any two cities and make enough money to carry you through the rest of the game. Make enough money to the point where the thing holding you back is not the income you're bringing in almost immediately. The thing holding you back is how quickly you can find industries and towns and build to them. Um, you are not waiting for your trains to make money in OpenTTD 99% of the time. So, in order to compensate this, I messed with the settings quite substantially. Uh, I said passenger trains are too easy, passengers are everywhere. The map has way too many options for industries. There's like no reasonable competition that's going to happen here. Um, so let's do some things. Number one priority, number one order of business was finding a mod that allowed me to manually tweak the revenue from passenger and mail. A mail isn't so much of a big deal, but I dialed them both all the way down to 50%, and then I dialed them back up to 55%, and I'm probably going to dial them up again to at least 60% before the community playdate tomorrow. Um, for those who are hearing those words for the first time, we do community playdates every week in a game that's voted on. They get streamed on the community channel, and to play them, you need to be a part of our Discord, which is linked in the description. So, making a freight yard in 2022. Cool. Let me know if you need any advice. I have built a couple of those. I actually haven't built any freight yards in Trainz 2022. That's an interesting point. All of my stuff is carried over from earlier versions, but I feel like that's neither here nor there. So let's see. We're gonna need to do stuff in this river valley, stuff in this river valley. Oh wait, no, this section is done. This section is not. What I probably actually want to do is add some retaining walls along these sections that are up really high. Maybe not on this side, but definitely on the river side. So let's do that while it's on the brain. So, yeah, I went and I found something that let me turn down passenger revenue. And I liked that. I thought that was pretty good. It made it so that, well, it made it so that there isn't a guaranteed win system. Now, for OpenTTD, most of the time, the meta really seems to be you make a large passenger system between a couple of nearby towns, and you just expand that, as far and as fast as possible because you're able to do that. I don't like that. I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't like it for multiple reasons. Number one, of course, being that passengers are everywhere, and number one, of course, being that it makes too much money for too little thought. I mean, that's sort of the crux of the whole thing, if you ask me. Um, but it is a yeah, to make as much money as possible and screw with other players. I don't want yeah, I don't want I want it to be harder than that. Is what I'm meaning, I suppose. What the hell was I just saying? So yeah, number one is it's too easy to make tons of money. For two reasons. One being that passengers are everywhere. It's not hard to figure out what makes a good passenger connection. Um, and two, because it takes no. I think I'm just repeating myself. I've actually lost what my second point was, and I'm just repeating the first one over and over again. Um, it makes it harder to make money, and it makes it so that you have to think to make that money. It makes the low thought option less lucrative, and it makes the high thought option more appealing, or the more thought option more appealing. Um, Now, the more thought option being, uh, like figuring out an industry chain, and I like the industry chains, and at the same time, I turned down the frequency of industries so that these industry chains would have some competition between the players. So you can't just f off to your corner of the map and build whatever you want and then come back and screw with other players later, or buy them out or whatever. I know you can't actually fully buy out companies or other players' companies in multiplayer, but you know, and this all did come from a specific thing. I mean, usually I get an idea because of a playstyle that I see, and I want to counter that to make other things more viable. Now, the playstyle that I saw, unsurprisingly, was Tyler building massive mainlines everywhere. I also saw Jake Rail doing the same thing in a previous community playdate where we did OpenTTD. Um, and because I had the option of bringing in mods on this one, it made sense to me to take as much advantage of that, as much advantage of that as I could. So I did. Um, the new industry system is much more detailed and more complicated, so you have to, look before you leap. Dialing down the terrain settings is one thing. I didn't want to make the terrain itself like super difficult, but there are areas where it will become slightly difficult. Um, but yeah, I added those things. I mean, I also added some other things to make life a little bit easier, expanded the variety of rail vehicles and, air and road and sea-going vehicles in all sorts of which ways. Because, I wanted there to be options still. But that sort of goes back to my original point, which is I have created a world in which the options are important. I could have added 100 different options previously. I could have added all these vehicle mods. I could have added all these industry mods. I could have added, the narrow gauge, the what's some other stuff I added, like the trams and the buses, that sort of thing. I could have added all that, and none of it would have mattered a lick if I hadn't altered the amount of money you get from just running passengers around. because there was no pressure to use or figure out or use any of those other alternatives. So now, instead of sort of what Shoreline was saying with the meta of you jump in, you throw it on a system, you make as much money as possible by just building and building and building and building, you now have to be a little bit methodical. And in fact, it might behoove you to work alongside other players and say, like, okay, I'm going to build a line that does this, you build a line that does this, and together we can get more out of this industry, um, et cetera, et cetera. Especially with these longer industry chains that FIRST provides. It is worth saying we aren't doing the most complicated ones, but it's something. It's a start. Okay, there should be one more location like this. No, that's it. Just those two. I think I thought there was one, and instead there were two. Oh wait, no, right here. I didn't go far enough down. I mean, yell at me all you want, but I did this for what I feel like is the good of the game because it makes it less of a uh, sort of competitive hellstorm. Instead, all of the pain is coming from the game itself, and again, it might be a good idea to work with other players instead of only working against them. If you have someone that just wants to do the trolley networks in your towns that brings passengers to your trains, however Tyler figured out how to make that work, um, that could be genuinely beneficial, as opposed to, well, you're gonna have enough money to make the trains and the trolleys anyway in like, a few minutes. So why work with somebody else? But this, I ran a test today, and a lot of people that are here will have been part of that test or were part of that test, and it was with all the new settings, including the Alpine industry chain, which is a little bit more difficult and less sort of intuitive than the default FIRST industry chain. The only thing that I can say, or the first thing that I can say, is that check the, well, when you go to build, to make sure that there's stuff near you, number one. Look around a bit, don't just build to the first industry you see. Because the chains are important and the ports are really important. The ports produce engineering supplies and farming supplies for all of the basic industries, and for even some of the medium industries, they provide some commodities. If you can get a station out in front of a port, you have access to stuff that will help TM. Um, I started this test today, and people were struggling because they hadn't seen the industry chain before, they hadn't played with these settings before, or they really hadn't played much at all. For in the case of some people, and there were a lot of bankruptcies or floundering companies right away. And I sort of looked at that and went like, ooh, is this too hard? Is this... I'm not necessarily asking is this too hard for the people involved, but I'm asking, okay, did I make something that would make a multiplayer game like this impossible? Impossible to make money in, impossible to, like, build upon. But there were a couple of people that were succeeding, so it made me think twice. Um, and so I went, okay, so is it just that a lot of the people who don't really know what they're doing just don't really know what they're doing? Or is it that a handful of the people who do know what they're doing, or don't, just got really lucky with their first choices and went from there? And I'm not just going to say skill issue, but it does seem to be, after I went in myself, after a couple hours had gone by, because I had been working, inflation had kicked in because I turned that on too, which makes your returns less and less over the years, effectively. Um, which is why it's nice to get in the early game and build a system that's profitable, because you have 10 years before inflation kicks in and starts kicking your dick in. Um, or, organ of your choice. Point is, the I got in, I think it was like 1923. And inflation kicks in 1920. So there wouldn't have been that much of a difference. But I went, okay, look, here's a port, and here is a farm not too far away, or it was a mine, I think. It was a mine not too far away, forestry, whatever. I'll just I'll take the loan that I have, which is 200 grand. It's not anything to write home about, but I'll take the loan that I have, and I will go and build a I'll build a connection between these two places. I'll just spend my money on that. They're not very far away, but that's sort of a good thing. It means that hopefully it won't be too much trouble to get this done and get a train running. The port isn't producing all that much, but it's producing enough, I think. So, let's give this a shot. Put a station down at the port, put a station down at the tree farm, and started shipping engineering supplies. Now, I messed up in two respects. One is that the distance was fairly short, so I didn't really need a consolidation. I could have made something a little bit weaker, a little bit slower as my number one locomotive. Number two, and these are pieces of advice. Number two, I didn't look at all the options for freight cars before I decided on what I would use. Why is that important? Because I chose a gondola car. And the reason I chose a gondola car is because uh, it was a uh, like it was decently swift. You had a decent top speed, which I think was higher than my locomotives by a margin, which should also kind of be a red flag. You might be wasting your money if you're spending money on high top speed rolling stock when your locomotive doesn't go that fast. And two, it had a reasonably decent carrying capacity. But three, most importantly, is it was cheaper than the hopper car, or whatever the other car was that was the alternative. You can sort by type of car and by price. Yes, exactly. Um, I didn't look at all my options. I could have used flat cars, which not only were they cheaper, the running cost was a third of what the Gons I was using was. So I could have saved a substantial amount of running cost um, by looking a little bit further. But I got this train running, and you know what? It turned a decent profit. Definitely enough that I wasn't going to run out of money anytime soon, or really anytime at all. Um, and then I said, okay, well, I've got 200,000 in a loan right now. What else can I do that doesn't involve going somewhere else and starting anew? Because stations, track, it's expensive. I know it's not that much, but it is moderately expensive. So, what am I going to do? Well, there's another industry down the way that doesn't take engineering supplies, which I was using, but it takes farm supplies. Hey, that's a good thing because I'm already consuming all the engineering supplies out of this port. I'm not going to have a way to get more. Why don't I try to use the farm supplies out of the same port using the same station? I ended up building a second track, but I was able to use the same main line for part of the way because it went in the same direction. So I built a little spur off of that main line that ran to this other place. I built another train I about doubled my loan, but the interest on the loan, which I checked, was about $4,000 a year, which was less than one run of the train. So I could afford to double that. Did a little quick maths, right? Um, and then I added the second train. The second train went about twice as far as the first one because it used the first one's main line as sort of a springboard, so I didn't have to build that much more infrastructure. Hey, Stellar. So I got this second train running using the additional loan. The second train made about twice as much as the first one because it went about twice as far. Then I was in business. Then I was making enough money that I could actually start paying off the loan. And it wasn't because I found two towns that were big and near one another. It wasn't because I found a pair of industries in the same chain. It's because I found a port, which are everywhere, and an industry that accepted goods from the port, which I know technically means they're in the same industry chain, but you don't necessarily think about that. You look at the producer industry and you go, okay, this makes coal. Yeah, it takes engineering supplies if I want to boost it. Oh man, there's nowhere for me to take coal from here. I guess I'm kind of screwed, right? Wrong. You can take engineering supplies to the coal mine and make money doing that instead. It's great. Also, I'm going to lower these so that I don't. Um, actually, no, I'm not. Uh, it's it works. You know, go for the ports. They're all over the place. And of course, subsidies are important, and just nailing a subsidy with something really cheap like a McKean car, OpenTTD, a modded OpenTTD that we're doing for the playdate tomorrow. The McKean car, right? Um, Nailing a subsidy with something really cheap like a McKean car, and then making some money off of that enough to replace it with a larger train later is a viable strategy, especially if you don't have the money to build out the large train right then. Uh, with the bonus that a subsidy gives you, that otherwise kind of worthless McKean car or alternative uh, can still make some money. It's okay. It's like a whole new game with the way that I effed with it. And I wanted to talk about something that Hemlock was sort of postulating earlier in the week, which was in an OpenTTD-esque game, modeling a switchyard more accurately, or at all, I suppose. But one of the key items that they said was this. Maybe it would be like a you wouldn't design the yard, you would throw down a given type of yard or a given size of yard as you define the capacity. And I think, well, if you're going to abstract it to that, because space is sort of at a premium in OpenTTD, and building a yard would take up an absurd amount of space, even if it is like a small one, relatively speaking. Uh, what if you abstract it down into a building? And I'm going to try to refine this idea later so I can mention it to them. Um, oh, Shoreline said that, not Stellar. Oh well. But my basic idea was you throw down like a 2x2 building, right? And it has track entrances on either side. So you have two entrances on one side and two entrances on the other, which you could have as 2 tracks in, 2 tracks out. You could have as 3 tracks in, 1 track out. You could have them all be, whatever. Uh, that's up to you. Now, the crux of what Hemlock was saying was that it would be cool to be able to sort of give conditions to these, so they would wait for, oh, there are 10 carloads of coal in the yard, dispatch this locomotive with the 10 carloads of coal to go to, this industry. Now we can we can sort of reframe that to say, give it this, take this engine and these commodities and give it this set of orders, you know? So if you had a building, right? Something else Hem said was not necessarily breaking it down to the commodity level, but I think that is the way to go. I not only think that breaking it down to the commodity level is the way to go, I think that breaking it down further into, well, sorry, they said carload level. I think that breaking it down into commodity level is the way to go. Um, and my rationale is as follows. If you have this hypothetical building, which we will call a switchyard, for lack of a better term, you put down a switchyard. You cannot buy trains in a switchyard, but it will store as much as you want. It will store everything. You send in 100 trains of 100 cars, it'll just keep all of that in its internal sort of repository. The engines will go into a locomotive pool, the cars will go into a car pool, and any commodities that are in those cars will go into a commodity pool. And this is an important aspect. Because you say, and for the moment we're going to assume not OpenTTD rules where we don't have to necessarily refit the cars. It's just they can carry stuff. They can carry XYZ items. So, alright, put this like so. Um, I'm actually going to tuck this in just a little bit more. So, you purchase locomotives and cars, and you send them out on trains to a given location and then back. And they go into the switchyard. You say go to the switchyard when you're done with this one run or whatever. And that wipes the schedules. That wipes the schedules off these trains. Now, right now, you're thinking, oh no. But bear with me here. You now have a pool of engines, you have a pool of cars, you have a pool of commodities. You set up some stuff that says when the when X commodity or when X car reaches an amount, reaches Y amount. So when there are 200 tons of coal in the switchyard, grab a locomotive from the pool, and you can probably specify what. Grab a locomotive from the pool, and put these 200 tons of coal in appropriate cars that are available, whatever cars are available that are appropriate, and then dispatch them with X or with Z set of orders. So there's 200 tons of coal. Okay, there's 200 tons of coal in. The game selects an engine based on whatever parameters. Locomotive pools would only really work when we're dealing with diesels, not necessarily. Assume that you can set parameters like you could either narrow it down to select a Mikado, select one of this model of locomotive, or select something with at least this much tractive effort, or select something with at least this much top speed, or both. Unless you've also got a roundhouse. No. You're not. Everything is the movements of locomotives and cars inside the switchyard are completely abstracted. They just disappear into a void. They get dematerialized and put in the Tron world, and then when you need locomotives, it brings one out. And assembles that train for you inside of the switchyard. You have a thing that says, okay, when we have X number of tons of coal, we have 200 tons of coal. Okay, pick a locomotive. It's got to have this much, 40,000 pounds of tractive effort. All right, it picks a locomotive. Now put the 200 tons of coal, put as close to 200 tons of coal as you can, using available equipment, whatever freight cars are in the switchyard, behind this locomotive, and give it the set of orders that says, go to the power plant and then come back. And that's it. And that way, you can have, what's the practical purpose of this? Say your coal mine is in a mountainous region, and your power plant is in flatlands. So you have a train come in from the coal mine with a locomotive that's suited for a mountainous region. You have it come in with a bull moose on it or something, which is an 0880, which is something that I'd totally forgotten about until there's one in one of these mods. So, train comes in with the bull moose, pulls into Boston town, whatever it's called, pulls into your town, pulls into the switchyard, and just like that, the train is magically disassembled into its constituent parts. The locomotive goes in the pool of locomotives, the rail cars go in the pool of rail cars, and the coal goes in the giant commodity pool. So, now you have 200 tons of coal, you have, a bunch of hopper cars, and you have a locomotive. But in that thing, you also have a mountain type, or a Berkshire, or say even like an Adriatic or a Hudson or Baltic or whatever you want to call it, something that's high stepping but does not have the tractive effort of the bull moose. Your switchyard sees, hey, we've got 200 tons of coal in here. That means I need to dispatch a train. I need to dispatch a train that's heading for the power plant. The power plant's across flatland, so I've been programmed to put together a train using a locomotive with a top speed of at least 75 miles per hour. And so it picks a locomotive with a top speed of at least 75 miles per hour and then assembles this train behind it, which is going to be more or less the same composition as the train that just came in. It's just going to be behind a different locomotive. Something that's not possible in OpenTTD. You can't switch locomotives on the fly without transferring the commodities at a station. Now, you could do that, but now you're paying for 2 sets of rolling stock instead of 1. So what the switchyard enables you to do is double dip on the rolling stock that you're using and make your train able to sort of rebuild itself for each destination. And if you've got something like, well, the power plant, the station for the power plant is next to the city, and the city, currently accepts food. So now you have another train that's bringing in food into the switchyard in boxcars, something not hoppers, different locomotive, whatever. Maybe it uses a faster locomotive, or maybe it uses the faster locomotive. So now you still only have 2 trains. You have the train with the Bull Moose and the train with the Pacific. And so you have your goods train. Oh, this whole area's got to be trees, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. You have your goods train. Um, Sorry, got distracted for a second. You have your coal train coming in, goes out, fills up with coal, comes back with the slow, powerful locomotive, pulls into the switchyard. You have your goods train, which pulls in with the fast locomotive into the switchyard. They both get disassembled. The switchyard sees, hey, I've got 200 tons of coal, which means that I can assemble a train for, for the power plant. When I assemble a train for the power plant station, it says to also take with me any food that I have. So it grabs the locomotive off of the food train, or the goods train that just came in, puts it on a train that has all the coal cars and has all the food cars, goods cars, and sends it off to the town. So now you're able to do switching maneuvers. You've completely abstracted the concept of a switching yard, so you don't need to worry about building or designing one. You don't need to worry about AI trying to figure one out, and that's not easy, trust me, I know. And you have effectively created a way to make a yard in OpenTTD. Now, is this possible with OpenTTD as it exists? I don't know. Modders can do some amazing things, but this is sort of fundamentally asking the game to do something that it was not meant to do. It would be sort of an extension of the depot system. Maybe you could have locomotives repair in there, but probably not. Maybe you could have trains get replaced in there, but probably not. Neither precision nor scheduled nor railroading. Yeah. But there you go. That's how you build something that functions as a surrogate yard in OpenTTD, or in an OpenTTD-esque architecture, without worrying about what does the yard look like and can the AI switch it. It is a completely different kind of flying altogether. Is an outside the box by making everything inside the box. And you would need many powerful AI commands with a switchyard. You'd need a switchyard to keep track of every locomotive and their stats that are available. You'd need it to keep track of every car, every rail car, every piece of rolling stock and its stats that are available. Every piece of commodity that's stored within the switchyard. You'd basically be building a hybrid between a depot and a station. Now, all of that seems reasonably feasible. The thing that doesn't is having all of those able to be sort of read, interpreted, and governed by commands that you give the switchyard. You say, keep track of... Oh man, I covered this all up without... I have an idea. I have an idea. So, hang on a second. That is in fact a McKean car. Thank you. I have an idea to make my life a little easier. I haven't really done this, but I'm gonna see if I can. Um, where's replace? Well, cancel, update, and replace. Um, so grab red oak. I think I can. I might be able to do these all at once. Let's find out. I'm definitely gonna save before I do this, though. Um, let's save first. So I'm worried this isn't gonna work. Yeah, you need a set of commands that can discern like, okay, X number of cars in the yard, dispatch an empty. X number of um, commodities in the yard, dispatch a train of this kind. This engine is in the yard, go and do that. Uh, the other thing is you would probably need to differentiate engines or locomotives, I would think. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Just give me a whopper. So you would have to say like the the game would have to keep track of like locomotive from train one, maybe, maybe not. But point is, you you'd have to be able to program the hell out of them. And I'll probably talk to him about it later when they get back from their whatever they're doing. Um, but yeah, like that's. Didn't I used to have like a zigzag, like a missing sort of zigzag in here where one thing connected to another? Maybe I didn't, but I thought that I did. Maybe it's down here? No? I really thought I marked down... Is this it? This is it. This is it right here. Yes, baby.
I was just informed by one of the girlies that we might get snow. Very low chance of snow.
Well, you're telling me there's a chance.
Yeah, because the temperatures are going to go very, very, like, not below freezing, but freezing.
Hell yeah.
So,
Give me that.
either upstairs or
Gimme, gimme,
outside,
gimme.
there.
Isn't there... What?
Does it go upstairs?
It does. Sometimes it goes a little haywire and gives way too much heat up there. Well, yeah, I mean, check up there when she's going to bed, and we'll see if it's good. We'll see if it isn't. Definitely want to keep these two shut during the night so that it can moderate that heat. But yeah, I mean, there's that heater. There's one I think that's already up there, and then there's the one that's outside.
I would rather have that one there.
Yeah, well, that one can regulate based on temperature. That's probably the one to put up there. Less likely to burn the house down. Anyway. So, point is, that is what I think you could do. If I knew how to code anything, certainly anything in OpenTTD, which I believe that's like recoded in C++ or something, uh, and not the OG assembler because it doesn't need to be like super, whatchamacallit, doesn't need to be super optimized anymore. Which means it is possible. Doing that as a mod would be really interesting, and frankly, it'd be kind of game-changing for OpenTTD. It would open up a whole new sort of way to play, or way to sort of be thrifty and save money. Uh, Also, I'd like to think that maybe a switchyard would incur operating costs based on its usage instead of instead of you know just like a static building. So every time a train goes in and gets disassembled, or a train comes out and is assembled, it costs a little something. Maybe. I wonder if anyone knows someone who actively mods OpenTTD, or actively has modded OpenTTD. I'd love to talk to them about how viable of a concept this is. Now, the other thing is, of course, I am sort of running with Hem's idea here, and if they think this is a stupid interpretation of that, then that's totally fine, and that's, obviously pursuing it is sort of irrespective of that, but pursuing it is sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to pursue it if it's not what they had in mind. Not because I'm doing it for them, but because I don't want to go through this and then still have the conversation of, oh, but what if, what if we had this, Uh, because if we make this thing, I would like it to be the sort of satisfier of that desire. Because in fairness, I kind of have the same desire. Uh, I would really like it if I could switch stuff out like that. I mean, you guys are welcome to throw in your 2 cents, all two of you that are probably here. Uh, but that's what I mean. Those are the ideas that I had, and honestly, I kind of wanted to keep them under my hat so that I could talk with him about them. But yeah, the most difficult thing would be figuring out how to structure commands for it. Um, and also, you would have to set up your triggers as a sort of priority. You'd probably want your commodity triggers over your railcar triggers, where it's like, okay, oh, I've got 20 empty hoppers. It says when I have 20 empty hoppers to build a train of empties headed for the coal mine. Yeah, but there's like 600 tons of coal in here. Yeah, but empty hoppers, more coal. So then you're just always running the train between the coal mine and the coal mine and the doodad. Now, I don't. Yeah, always running the train between the coal mine and the switch yard, and not taking it to the power plant and just accumulating coal inside the switch yard. That's not something that you want necessarily, because you're not making any money that way. But point is that's my thoughts. Um, don't know really where to go from here. There were other things I wanted to bring up. Midterms. Hope everyone voted. There's my vote situation. Interesting races. Um, another day goes by in America. But hope everyone did their patriotic duty and voted. If you can. If you can't, that's fine. Um, but don't let other people decide your government for you without your input. Anyway, uh, was there anything else I wanted to elaborate on the switch yard? Uh, there was. I would think that you could also have commands to. Well, you wouldn't necessarily want commands for trains to do anything in particular with the switch yard. But like I said, a train's uh, sort of commands or instructions would be nuked the moment it went into a switchyard. Um, you don't need them keeping that. You just give it triggers. Although You could technically have it set up where train pulls into switchyard and has specific commands and then keeps going. That's maybe a good idea. Um, you have your goods train from earlier, and it has commands to go into switchyard, and instead of that being the end of the command, so the commands wouldn't necessarily be automatically nuked, but you could say, clear commands or like terminate train in switchyard, which would have the same effect. Uh, hmm. And if you were to do that, then yeah, you could have other trains that do not terminate in the switchyard and instead are more like pull into Boston switchyard, then sell, or not sell, then pick up, uh, load up on food and whatever cars that go with it. I mean, it may be reasonable to, instead of having stuff torn down to, Hi Lafayette, instead of having stuff torn down to taking the loads out of the cars, which I think would be interesting, to not have them take the loads out of the cars, and just say, pick up cars with these loads, pick up cars of food, you know, which would sort of it would make it different, and it would make it so that you can only transfer loads at a station, because then you could, I suppose, have a station and switchyard working sort of in conjunction, where you have, you know, if you've got X cars of whatever, say you have gons of coal or whatever, which are lower speed, higher capacity, but you have some empty hoppers in there, you can then have a train come out to a station with the empty hoppers, pull in there, wait for full load, have another train pull out with the gons, go to that station and unload. Actually, basing these more on the locomotive, like, things is probably more viable, and again, that's not really what Hem was talking about, but it would just give the option to switch cars. The switchyard having an internal locomotive pool or whatever, I feel like you could have both, right? You could assign trains commands, train specific commands of what to do upon entering the switchyard, or you could just have the train say, terminate train in switchyard, at which point it will just disassemble itself. I think those are both totally viable options for what you could do, and in fact, you could probably do both. If you could do one, you can probably do both. Because what it comes down to is uh, modifying a consist automatically, which, as far as I know, nothing in OpenTTD does that. Nothing in OpenTTD, nothing in Locomotion, nothing in any Chris Sawyer game. It would be a totally unprecedented thing. It would change a lot about how you could play the game if you're playing it with a freight point of view, which would be awesome. I definitely need to get all this down on paper, and then talk to Hem, and then maybe talk to somebody who knows how to mod OpenTTD. I still don't know what Can somebody look up what OpenTTD is coded in? Because that would change things dramatically, whether I think it's possible or not. Because I know a great many things are possible with mods, but the jury rigging coded from scratch. I don't. Is that a coded? Are you serious? Is that a coding language? I feel like you're making a joke here, but I trust nothing at this point. Um. All right, Stellar. I have a good day. I suppose. Have a good night. Um. Scratch. It's a joke, but it is an actual coding thing. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought you answered so quickly, and you said scratch, and I went, oh, come on, he's got to be pulling my leg, right? But in the back of my head, the little voice is like, no, that's a real thing. It could be. But no, okay, you are just pulling my leg. Ha ha ha, very funny. Um, anyway, Getting this area done here. Um, I didn't go as far as I should have with the grass and the yeah, with the grass and the trees in this area. Either way, that's my idea for an incredibly formative OpenTTD mod and how it might be accomplished in terms of just mechanical operation and not coding whatsoever. There are people that I'm sure that would listen to this and go like, well, that's just not what you're talking about is not possible. There's no architecture within OpenTTD that allows a train to be edited, and I'll say, well, there isn't a depot. If you can figure out how to, if the AI can edit can make and edit trains in a depot, then maybe we can make a thing that may make a depot that edits trains on its own, and I would be laughed out of the room. But you know, I don't know when to listen to the coders, I suppose. There was something more important that I did want to talk about here. I don't remember what it was. I mean, I talked about the trains derailing off screen, which is an interesting sort of happenstance that I hope to get to the bottom of at some point. I'm not sure I will, but what I might end up doing is just having someone yell at the developers for me to lower the coupling speed, because I think the couple at track mark uh, just employs a couple command. I'm also not entirely sure how how much you can get away with the couple at track mark command. There may be ways to use it that are kind of shenaniganous, uh, like using it as a track mark command if there's nothing there. But the thing is, if you use couple at track mark as a track mark command, the couple at track mark has to be out at like the beginning of the track, I think, and the track mark command you're going to want to be pretty much, you know, at the back of the track, assuming it's like a stub end track, for example. Uh, Now you might be able to do it with a couple at track mark and then drive to track mark, where your couple at is at the head of the track and your drive to is at the back of the track. But I'm not sure if that will work if the train is already on top of that track mark. You know, say you have a consist, it's in a yard track, it's pressed up to the back of the yard track where the track mark is, and then you come in and you have a train that you say, you know, couple to this and then push it to the track mark and then, you know, uncouple and leave. If the train is already at the track mark, trains might get a little confused. It might not, but I have not yet figured that out whether it will or it won't. I don't exactly trust it. All right, there we go. Um, and I do want to experiment with it, and we could probably do that a little bit later, towards the end of this video here. There we go. Oh wow, the stuff is infringing. I don't really want to have the bushes all over the road. I just want them to be close. Alright. Can I put bushes underneath here? I think I can. There we go. I'm going to not fill that in yet. I probably want to go back to the swamp and take a look at some of the splines I used out there that I have not used in this area yet that may be useful or applicable to this sort of marshy river-esque area, the marshy stream. All right, there we go. And I don't want to put the bushes on top of the track, so I will put the bushes over here, along the edge here. It's a quiet Thursday. Only a couple folks here. No watch party, I guess. I understand. Not everyone's going to be here every Thursday. I assume somebody's going to pop in for the last 30 minutes and be like, am I late? Because that tends to happen. But anyway. Alright, we got this done. We can probably turn the trees back on. Just trying to deal with Consus, ain't we all? By deal with Consus, what do you mean? I'm glad you're working on your route, Kevin, as well. I mean, I guess if there's not too many people here. CDPs keep opening in Notepad? Eh? I mean, it's better than your CDPs opening in Trainz 2006 for no reason. The Ghost of 06 rises. I guess I'm just going to do grass, because that seems to work for what I'm trying to do here. Oh, my computer's not happy, though. I feel like I should save before something bad happens. My fans are spooling up since I turned the trees back on. I almost deleted my electrical box. I gotta be careful. The CDP extractor? What the heck is that? What is that supposed to do? Does it let you edit stuff without, like, putting it into Trainz or something? Alright, let's, trim some trees. Trim some trees. There we go. We're going to have to do the ballast on this section. I'm also going to trim this back a little ways. I'm also going to fill in this area with some shrubberies because there was just a hole in the trees, I guess. The CDP extractor. Okay. There we go. I'd be glad to not have them open with any program because it's making me angry. Dean Shamsh. You're so angry you're having a stroke. Call a bondulance. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's... Yeah, and this looks decent. Just covering a texture with grass ends up looking pretty good more often than not. Ends up looking better than you'd expect. I might put some sort of railing on that edge there. Because the Gilson Eastern is OSHA certified. Not. It's better than the VMR anyway. The Gilson Eastern is just in pursuit of velocity and throughput. And I do think... I suppose there was nothing that I ever wrote hard and fast about the Gilson Eastern having a 4-track mainline all the way through. I do intend to have at least one bottleneck. It'll be a tunnel way up the way that, you know, I probably won't be building for another couple of years. But, you know, we'll get there. There. I mean, it's just going to be me filling in grass now. We've got a long ways to go on this river. But you know, it took me 2 episodes to build a river, so what? We're getting other stuff done in the meantime. The AI is getting further along, which is important in its own right. And even though we might not test it today, it is becoming, I hesitate to say more reliable, but at least more complete. It's not really becoming more reliable. It's becoming more unreliable. It's getting weirder. But we've just got to work around that. And every time something goes wrong, I sort of feel like Martin in the Marble Machine. Every time something goes wrong, it's just like an education. It's a lesson on, okay, well, what can I do to make this more robust instead? And sometimes the Trainz AI likes things that are less robust. Sometimes it likes a navigate to instead of a drive to with a track mark because it gets confused about what it can and can't drive to. Sometimes it likes, uh, it likes to make its own path because sometimes it can be consistent about that, as opposed to being told what it is and it being consistently confused. So, there are some pros and some cons here, and I do want to do more AI testing, but I've been doing OpenTTD shenaniganry. I wish I could dial up the industry density just a hair more than we currently have, because I feel like with the changes that I made, making just the next step up of industries is too many. They're everywhere. Same thing with towns. In fact, I would even love to turn the towns down more, but that's more of a personal preference than a gameplay like decision, because I have never played with too many towns. In my locomotion maps, I would always turn towns way down because I was building scenarios to play with the freight systems, and the yeah, I was doing scenarios to play with the freight systems, and the towns would just grow massively out of control, you know, and they would block up the whole map because locomotion maps are not that large. Transport Fever maps, or Transport Fever, OpenTTD maps, you can get a town up to 40,000 people, and it's a tiny little blip on this mid-size map, or maybe it's like a medium-large map. But even still, Tyler got a town to dectuple its population over the course of the game, and it was in nobody's way. Um, so yeah. Hello, Mew. How you doing? It's kind of quiet here today. It's good you came around. Was just talking about OpenTTD and the things I've done to make it more difficult, including things that I didn't mention already, like adding inflation, which I did sort of mention in passing, adding infrastructure maintenance, which is the big one, that sort of thing. It's all, yeah. What else did I add to make things difficult, to make life difficult? I didn't change the industry setup that much. I changed the way passengers work, but I think that actually might be for the benefit of people doing passenger services. The thing is, you can max out some of your vehicles and just like not make money of them from them on short runs, which wasn't really my intention. I wanted people to have difficulty breaking even, but still be able to break even. But you're not going to be able to make every run profitable. If I made every run profitable, then why even turn down the thing in the first place? All right. Um, just working on this river, which I don't think has a name. I don't think I gave it a name, but working our way towards Pan Am. We'll get there when we get there. I think getting this river done as sort of the set piece of the area is an important step, because everything else in this vicinity is just farm fields and homesteads. We're thinking about getting OpenTTD. Other things that I should do keep getting in the way. Well, if you happen to be around tomorrow evening, OpenTTD is available on Steam for free, and it will download the mods automatically for you when you try to join the game. So There's no barrier to entry there, and you can definitely play it on that RPI notebook. That's for sure. It'll run on just about everything. I mean, the original Transport Tycoon will run on anything. It'll run on a freaking potato, but that's because it was coded in assembler to be hyper efficient because Chris Sawyer's a maniac, in the good way. Like getting back on Discord, yeah. Miss ya. Um, alright, keep going. I need to stop just looking back at my handiwork. I need to stop, like, I need to stop stopping to smell the flowers and admiring what I'm doing here and just, oops, kick the speakers out. And just go for it, right? I need to finish this. The faster I get through, the faster I get on to the next task. The less chance of me being killed by the imposter while I'm doing this. Gotta get through the tasks quickly. So let's fill that in. Just get rid of grid wherever possible. It doesn't mean to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be here. I think I mentioned that somebody in Heiss's Discord, one of the people that bought trading cards last second during the stream, got theirs and is like pleased as punch with what they got, which is fantastic. Sprinkles got theirs, and I don't know if... Well, I know that Sprinkles was not like super happy with what came in the mail, but it's good trading fodder. Hey, Mopek. Now imagining that you named a station Amogu South. That's yes. I should do that. This is the Amogu River. Probably I don't think I'm actually gonna go with that, but or we could just call it the Mongoose River. A mongoose. Mongoose. How far did I go up with this? I went up to Jasper Mills and that was it. Oh, I went up to this bridge, which is, yeah, it's about halfway to Pan Am from where we are right now. But it is where the thing splits off and things get a lot simpler. Back to sort of this looking area as opposed to this. The navigators found the waters very sus. Alright, am I all the way up here? No, not quite, but I'm getting there. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, Graham. Skill issue. You gotta get good. I know you figured out how to make money eventually. I saw you rolling in the dough. Everything I wanted except for Red Devil. Yeah, Red Devil. I don't know anyone that's grabbed one, although someone who went to the Little Roadie train show might have gone home with one. And if they didn't, there's at least one more in my box of packs over here. I know you were getting good. I'm proud of you. You're going to have to do that again on Friday. Now that you know what to do. Just look before you leap. That's my recommendation. You gotta think, like, is this a good investment? And am I going to get a good return on investment on this thing? You know, and you weren't here earlier, so I'll say it again. Make use of your ports. Everyone make use of your ports. The ports in Furs are the most overpowered industries. They have so many options for things you can connect to. I bet you there's a reasonable money-making like connection to be made in the vicinity of every single port in one of our maps. I will increase the passenger revenue just a little bit so that people can go bankrupt less often. But I did notice that a lot of the people that were going bankrupt were the people that didn't quite know what they were doing because they're new. Oh, you got a copy of 60,000, you son of a gun. So you're doing the ports totally messed that chain up. I thought the port needed fish. Yeah, no. Like, it's weird. the fishery is one thing, and then you take the fish from there to like a food processor or something, uh, or whatever. It's the fish chain is weird. Ports OP, if you connect a clay mine to a port, you can run half clay and half engineering supplies. You'll be rolling in it. Yes. The ports and the fishery look almost the same. You think so? I thought they looked pretty different. Uh, there are multiple designs for ports though, so maybe that was just me. I saw you build your little narrow gauge or the little line with the shays up to the pyrite smelter, and I realized when I saw that pyrite smelter that what I should have done, instead of running the lines that I did, because I ran one of engineering supplies to the lumber mill, or to the peat bog or whatever. Instead of running there, I should have run one to the pyrite mine and then run a train up from the pyrite mine to the pyrite smelter on the summit. That's what I should have done. Then I could have double dipped and got probably way more money. Um, it would have been a good idea. And yeah, going to the port is probably a good idea. Once, if we continue on the map, which I'm not sure we will, but if we continue on that map, once you connect to the port, I would recommend going, whatchamahoosit, connect to the port, and then when you bring stuff to the port, it should increase the amount of engineering supplies it outputs, and then we can share that, and you can bring stuff up to, or you can bring stuff over to the mine, and I can bring, I can continue bringing mine to the peat bog. I thought about switching it up and running to the mine anyway, but I figured that would benefit you a lot. Farm supply is where I ship my fish from. No, resources do not run out. In fact, industries don't even close down like they do in locomotion. You can get a mod for that, but they do open up very slowly. I think I still have that setting turned on. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but I realized that it provides some much needed opportunities that might not have been plundered for people showing up later in the game. So, like, the three things I want to check before we start this tomorrow, and you guys, Graham in particular, because I know you're going to be there, I think, please remember this and make sure I do, is the passenger and mail values, the industries closing or opening, and one other thing that I've now forgotten, but that's a shame. Or industries opening specifically. Like I said, they can't close, but they can open. Hey, Tyler. Mew here got one of your boys. Mew here got a 60,000 trading card. Needs a farm supply. Is it slow ramping up production? So here's the thing. We use an industry mod. The answer is, yeah, kind of, with the vanilla game, but it works a little differently than, like, Transport Fever. In the FIRS mod, FIRS, it doesn't ramp up unless you provide it with another commodity. Like a mine gives you just a set production pretty much, and if you provide it with with engineering supplies, then it will produce more. But other than that, it will stay at the same set production for all time. Now you can sort of meter that instead of having it be. You can give it a little trickle of engineering supplies, which may be worthwhile for like a smaller train. If you've only got one source of engineering supplies and you have multiple places they want to go, spreading them out might actually be a good idea because it'll boost the production of both places a little bit instead of boosting the production of one place a lot. It's not linear. It's not a linear relationship. It's a pair of thresholds where you get it over one amount and it like does 1.5 times the production. You get it over the second amount, it does 3 times the production. There's a learning curve with the mods, more so than regular OpenTTD. Like I was saying, my sort of complaint about OpenTTD, as it is in vanilla, is you can throw down a passenger train between any two cities and make more money than you know what to do with. You will be constrained by the speed at which you can build faster than you'll be constrained by the costs of that building. So, I tried to fix that. You guys making Windsor again. Oh, I got New England town names, Mew. So the towns that we end up talking about in OpenTTD are very different, or are very familiar rather. Actually, you guys weren't here. Like, but the people that are talking now were not here when I was talking about my take on Hemlock's idea about a switch yard in OpenTTD, and I think I have nailed down what would make it work. I just need to put it all down on paper, just like I need to put down the rules for Locodome on paper, because I started writing that during the train show, and I have the most rudimentary possible idea of like what the game could be. Locodome, uh, yeah, Locodome being the 5 card version of Versus. So it's a longer form 1v1 that is it's supposed to be like the marquee game mode to be played with the trading cards. Yes, I create another machination to destroy your sanity. You're going to look at versus with 5 cards each, like standard the card game. Yeah. Uh, so you put out one locomotive at a time, and if you do not have the ball, you can switch locomotives at any time. You can also voluntarily give away the ball to switch locomotives at any time. Um, and the goal is to get to 100 points. The stats that can be called reset every time someone switches a locomotive, so you don't necessarily have to get through all of your you don't necessarily have to get through all of your cards. You can pick your cards don't have to be in any specific order. You can pick as you go. I wanted to give a lot of freedom with this game mode and see if I could, then sort of think about restrictions later, because I thought about, like, okay, what if you have to stack the deck? What if you have to have your cards in a specific order? And I went, well, I don't know if I like that, because it removes the idea of, like, okay, I'm going to pull out this specific card to counter that specific locomotive. Like, you give the ball over to someone because you feel like you've expended your, you've spent all the weight points on your little narrow gauge locomotive. Uh, and then you switch to something big against their large locomotive, and you say, okay, well, fight me, come at me with this specifically, and they might throw the ball back to you and switch to something bigger or whatever. But I don't know. I am not totally sure on when the resets should happen, and I think I'm I've been leaning towards anytime anybody switches a locomotive card, but every other switch might do it, instead of being when both players do, just every other. Um, because if we think about 40 points are up for grabs on every card, or on every 1v1. Well, yeah, but then if you switch twice, that digs down into your. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It it might make the most sense to do it when both players have switched from the last time it reset, which was the idea that was given to me. But I just I don't know. It just seems a little bit cumbersome. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word. Um, Imagine OpenTTD, but Tyler isn't God. I mean, that was the beginning. Uh, Tyler had to relearn how to play the game for the test we did earlier, so I'm not going to worry about opening OpenTTD too much. I mean, Audrey is here, so I should probably pay attention to Audrey and Gloria. Uh, but I think I am going to go in and I'm going to just change some settings to make sure I remember to do that. And we've only got half an hour here, so, you know, I don't know even when that's going to be necessarily. I'm going to do it after this is done. Um, Open it again. If it's when both people have swapped, it'll stop people from just resetting the score by switching cards. Yeah, and I thought that, and then I went, well, if you have to give away the ball to switch, then, you know, you're just opening yourself up with whatever you have left. But it adds a little bit more strategy to it, where you can, say, open yourself up. Um, or you give the ball away, but you are reset. But it does give a strategy to, okay, I am bringing, I have a small locomotive and I've done all the weight stats, and then I'm turning it over to you voluntarily. But you can't just grab a locomotive even smaller and pull me on weight stats. I don't know. Maybe maybe it's both. Maybe I will leave it as every other, in just the expectation that most people are going to go, this person changes, then that person changes, then this person changes, then that person changes. But if you change twice, which is kind of shortchanging yourself and your ability to get points, um, just to shuffle a card out of there because you're in mortal peril otherwise, maybe that's a good thing. Every other might make more sense, just from a gameplay perspective. It might be a little bit less cumbersome. Get Audrey and Gloria to play OpenTTD. I thought about getting Gloria to play OpenTTD for the playdate tomorrow. I did tell them it was free. Audrey, I think, wouldn't really be able to wrap her head around it because she's 8, but um, at least not with the mods that we've got. End up bought out by Tyler in no time. Alright. There we go. I'm doing like the corridor now instead of the fields. Wait, is left? No, the kitty's in there. Hi, kitty. Cat's in the cat bed, which is unusual actually. Usually the dog's in the cat bed. Maybe you swapped. It'll stop people from resetting the score just by switching cards. Yeah, no. I want to experiment with the different options, but I'm not ready to unleash a new game mode on the world. I would at least want to do one more doubleheader bracket before I go like, all right, doubleheaders is old hat. But I know that Royales are still the most accessible game mode, so we're going to go back to that first. Over Tyler's winter break, or starting in Tyler's winter break and going into presumably Tyler's next semester, because then Tyler can actually be there to officiate. Um, I won't need Tyler to officiate as much, since having started to develop like the master style point list. But Tyler, I would like your help at some point with developing sort of these. What if we start a new OpenTD world this evening and leave it running all night? I mean, what if? Is anyone going to stay up for it? Also, when I pause the game as the guy who's running the session, so actually, important question for people who do multiplayer OpenTDD. Can anyone pause the game? Number one. Number two, can anyone unpause the game? Those are my most important questions. Because I wouldn't mind running no, not everyone can pause the game. No and also no. Okay, good to know. Because I wouldn't mind only the server owner can pause and unpause. Good to know. I wouldn't mind if it wasn't that way, if everyone could pause and everyone could unpause. I wouldn't mind doing just setting up a server over here and just being like, yeah, turn the lights off on your way out. Just like, last person who's logging out, please pause the game. So that 600 years don't go by overnight. Yeah, it's good to pause at the start of the game. And when we do the play date tomorrow, I am probably going to pause at the start of the game so that people can look around the map and figure out, figure out what's going on. Figure out where they want to start building, figure out what makes sense to start building around. I need to stop stopping to admire my handiwork, and I need to just finish the texture. Yeah, no, I agree, Graham, but it's, I mean, small price to pay for OpenTTD. I had to turn up the timeout so we could actually get AJ in, and that was really something. Uh, it does feel like we have the OpenTTD gang here now. I mean, Wyatt's here. Taki's not. Is Taki here? No, Taki's not here. AJ's here. Okay, yeah, no, I mean, it's not, there aren't too many people here right now. I want to make sure that my tips get out there, because I should probably write up a long post about the non-default settings in the OpenTTD thread on the Discord server, and with it, some advice for how to set up your first system to actually consistently make money. But I played OpenTTD last playdate. That's good. Oh, that's right, you did. I think, though, I'm mostly talking about people that have been there for the tests over the past few days, or over the past week since the last playdate, because I've gone from like a Horseman pack to a Horseman 2 pack to a Horseman 3 pack, which is just 2 with some tweaks, but it wouldn't let me save over Horseman 2, so that's just the way it's going to be, I guess. The people that are going to know what I'm talking about with the limitations and the restrictions that I've placed on railroad building, etc. And the other stuff that we have. I mean, like the Zeppelins and stuff, which notably nobody has figured out how to use profitably yet, but I feel like it's in part for lack of trying. Don't get me wrong, there was an attempt, but the thing wasn't loading. So, what time is the play date? It's at 7 o'clock. Check the 7 o'clock Eastern time. Check the events on the Discord server. And say you're interested, and I think it will let you know when we start. It might let everyone know. Anyway, but there should be an option to only let interested people know. IMO. Yeah. Use your harbors. Keep an eye on your commodity change. Are you able to make the Zeppelins explode? I haven't figured that out yet. Maybe. You have to add the Oh the Humanity mod. Mopac, I don't recommend it, but, be my guest. I mean, it'll be pretty dope if you manage to get them working. I mean, just seeing one, like, fly over a city is pretty cool looking. Hi, kitty. Oh, the cat's out of the bed. I'm gonna do the ground texture up to here. To right there. Oh, Model Railroad Club tomorrow at 7. Sad. Blow them off. Come play with us instead. Just kidding. Go be responsible. Alright, now we need to put the grass along the side of this. That's it. Then I think we're kind of done here for tonight. I mean, we've got 20 minutes left. We'll see how long it takes me to do the grass. So this wasn't even the grass that I'm supposed to be using. It was It was a thicker grass, if I remember right. So I could use fewer splines. I used it in olive. Zoom in! There's the scrapyard. I thought I used it over here? Yeah, there we go. Okay, this is what I need. Let's just do this section of mainline, and that'll make another section of mainline where things are more or less done. I say responsible because it's like an obligation. Like, I am gonna get elected as president of the Providence Northern, and I did not ask to be president of the Providence Northern. Just nobody wants to do the thing. Alright, so... But at least I get to say I was president of the Providence Northern, I guess. They're electing me in like 2 weeks. I didn't ask to be on the ballot, but I saw it and I'm on it. I expressed the most minimal of interest by saying like, so what does the president actually do? And they were like, you're gonna be the president. It wasn't Maya 40 that we left on a building. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say. That's how I'm gonna get people to not vote for me. Holy crap! I just found a way out. I'm gonna say if you make me president, we're switching to a 1940s layout. That's my executive order. Guess we can say our friend is the president. Yeah, exactly. Of something way more important and cooler than the United States. Joe Brandon wishes he was president of a model railroad club, and that's probably an accurate statement. He a big foamer. Alright. Let's see. Fill this in here. I mean, I used to just go up one side and then down the other, but now I guess I'm trying to move the camera as little as possible. Admiral Ellis has been promoted to President Ellis. Yeah. Just bring in all the steam excursions. No, that won't bother people as much. They're all like, oh, 1984, and I'm just like, no. 1884. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, Mopac, but, you know. I mean, I kind of would hope so. Every foamer should get to feel the pressure of responsibility that comes with being an officer at their local model railroad club. Mew, weren't you president of the NAB&W for a stretch? What if Joe decided to head Amtrak? I mean, I don't think there's anything that's preventing him from doing that. That'd be kind of cool. But he's, like, already ancient, so... I don't know if that would be the best move. He should probably just retire. Like, for the love of God. Please, everyone over the age of, like, 69 in politics, nice, please retire. Just go live out your cushy lives with all the money that Exxon gave you. There we go. Alright. We're to the first, or we're to the second, wall. Yeah, okay. Because I remember you bringing that up, actually. When you were like, oh, you don't know who I am, but... Okay, let's fill this in, fill this in. It would be a really fun, like, guerrilla ad campaign in Heis's server. The Amtrak Joe memes, yeah. It'd be a really fun, like, guerrilla ad campaign in Heis's server to just always be like, you know, have people jump in there and go like, "Yo, I got my trading cards. I got my trading cards." Just start like a trading card conversation. Um, which is almost what happened. I mean, it happened a little bit, but the other fella who seemed interested never DM'd me about like, oh, can I get some? Um, all right, so oh yeah, I was going through the math a little bit. If it's every other, right? If it's every other, we'll assume the perfect scenario you have 5 pairs of locomotives. If both players switch at the same time, and they use up all the stats on their cards when they do. So you have 40 times 5 is 200 points in total, which, assuming it splits down the middle, is 100 points for each player. And if the game is first to 100, well, then you can have sort of the mercy rule where it ends off early because, like Jehovah's Witnesses talking about trading cards. This would be the lamest server raiding party in the world. We show up and instead of posting like weird memes or porn or whatever, we're just like, yo, did you get the yo, I'll take your 3025 for my 1744, and people are like, what the hell are you talking about? And we're just like, yes. I saw hold off on raiding Heisa server until we get a bunch of narrow gauge. Well, see, the thing is, when we make a narrow gauge batch of cards, guess who's going to be effing promoting them? Like, I was going to do a Celebrity Royale, and I mentioned this on the stream I was on with him. We were going to do a Celebrity Royale with Heis, Leighton, Weibold, Brett, Tyler, and one of the other fellows from the RO dev team, or from, I think, Trainz Forge or whatever, that Tyler had handpicked. And we were going to try to partner with Railroads Online to sell the cards. So we would have like a Railroads Online branded card pack, and we build the 3-foot gauge pack and the rarities of those things around what people would want because they got them in the game, or could get them in the game, or would be able to in the future. But then Railroads Online exploded, so we put the hold on batch 2 being the 3-foot gauge batch, and just went to like, okay, we'll do another batch of cards, just like random cards, that people would recognize, and just spitballed, and then came up with. We actually had, I think, probably 14 of the locomotives nailed down before we decided to throw in 60,000, and that then and only then did it click as to what the theme of the batch would or should be. And it was like, okay, never mind. We're changing gears. This is the great experiment. We're going to be highlighting locomotives that are unusual but successful sometimes. That's why I was like, okay, ditch, whatever the northern we were doing was. We're doing Timken instead. 3025 is a good example because it got rebuilt in the States. And, that sort of thing. And some of them are not very experimental because the batch wasn't built around an idea. It was built around, well, we're going to put some more engines in a batch. And then the idea came to us. So like 1744, the M6 is just, it's an M6. It's not really that special. Ivan being one of the Class 1 cards, not really that special. I mean, yeah, he was more, he was not one built of like a huge class, but 90 is not a unique locomotive by far. There was there are a few in the class that you can pick out and go like, yeah, that's a unique design, or that is not a unique design. Like 765, if I had been building the batch from scratch, I would have probably, had I still wanted a Burke, I would have gone with one of the 1400 types, or the A1 Burke from the B&A, which I know didn't end up on the B&A, but the 1400 class was identical copies more or less. So, that would have provided some more fodder for the Mogul. Which the Red Scare, and I remember you singing in a Russian accent, is a lot funnier than I remember. Oh man, we had so many other songs planned. My throat's kind of sore now, otherwise I would do some, but we had White Westy, which is a parody of White Christmas, Mr. Stalin, which is a parody of Mr. Sandman, and oh god, what was one of the other ones? I think those two were the only ones that I finished writing. I've had a tab open on my Google Chrome for Green Light on the Southern, uh, because I was supposed to write it as a parody of like Red Light on the something. But yeah, I just want a 90 card because the photographer is you, Matt. Uh, I got an 1111, then I traded it away. A red light on the Trans-Siberian, yeah. I mean, that's not the right amount of syllables, but I can go through what all I have now in my card collection. I may just end off the episode with that, and I will say that if you were listening to this and you did not get any cards, um, feel free to DM me on Discord because I have a bunch of packs still. We are almost there. And yeah, they're all for sale. So come and get them while they're hot, I suppose. The wreck of the Ivan Fitzgerald. Red Scare was a good episode. Red Scare was King C2. I got a lot of copies because I bought so many packs I gotta count them. We need to meet up and trade. We should meet up and... I mean, I wonder if you got any... How many packs did you get? Because somebody got like 12. Was that you? I don't remember where the 12 packer went to. The legend lives on from the Volga on down. Open TTD can resume. Graham, you said you're going to bed. Graham, go to bed. 90 communists? Yeah. Again, that was a fun episode. And usually when I talk about things being a fun episode, I'm talking about them from a writing point of view. We were talking about, like what it was like to make the Chronicles back in the day, and the general consensus is we do kind of miss it, and I miss the writing. You know, I miss doing the I miss doing that, like the creative aspect of it. Didn't enjoy filming it. Didn't enjoy editing it. Uh, any of that. But it came out. You know. 1360 communist. No, I haven't watched the Iron. That's fine. I don't blame you. Um, if you ever met my friend Rhea, she was supposed to have a voice in a couple of the episodes as Jerry's secretary. Um, I'm not sure we ever aired an episode with her voice in it, but that's what it was supposed to. She did have a role there. That was like the only RPI person that I roped into doing the Chronicles with me. Okay. When I finish this grass, I'm going to show off all of my cards. I like how this is how a Trainz route normally looks when it's half done, instead of what my stuff usually ends up looking like, where the area around the track is just like weird grid, and then in the distance is all this wonderful forest and scenery. RIA. No, it's okay. She was just a friend of mine. She didn't come around the Model Railroad Club as much as some of my other friends, or my other two friends that I had at RPI. But I don't know. Just thinking about if you two had crossed paths, because there are not many friends of mine in disparate groups that would have ever had the opportunity to cross paths otherwise. Uh, Excuse me. So was just tossing the idea out there. Um, let's see, what time is it? 9:55. I'm wondering how much that 5% change in passenger revenue is actually going to make in terms of a difference. All right. So let me save this while I can, and then we will do. Can I copy this? Whoa! What the hell? What did I do? Oh wait, never mind. Can I duplicate this? Um, Copy, paste. Okay, so now I have two webcams. Can I make one of them big and centered? Can I center it? Almost. Oh yeah, 200 pixels by 200 pixels. Boom! I'm huge now. Hope I scared you. Okay. Um, let's do some trading card fun for a minute. Speaking of NBW Ellis, I think I still have the video somewhere of trying to use Johnson to clean the track and slipping like mad. Cleaning the track at the NBW was hard. That was a catastrophe every single time. Where are my cards? Oh, I buried them underneath the Locodome plans. Yeah, please post it as right. Okay. One of these is batch 1, one of these is batch 2, I think. No, one of these is the cards that I care about for Locodome, and one of them is stuff that I'm willing to trade away. So. Okay, well there's my Flying Scotsman. That's number 1. Yeah, Johnson was the 2-1. 22. Card number 22 out of 40. Pretty mediocre number there. Don't really care about that. So this is the cards that I guess I don't really care about. There's my batch 1 card. The Frisco Decapod. Interesting thing. Has a typo on it. But a lot of the cards do, unfortunately. Slurge 1744. Little guy. This may be one of the cards that we have that actually has the most in class. But it's not even that many. It's like 44. Decent card. I mean, I just don't really care for the SP. I'd trade this for a Little River, even. It's 39 out of 40 also. So, not great as far as numbers are concerned. Speaking of moguls, here's Strasbourg 89. Yeah, you know. It's a neat engine. It's not my favorite Strasbourg engine, obviously. Track Cleaner's coupler was colliding with the Loco Pilot, lifting it up. Yeah, that's right. Now I remember that. Standard card, 1392. Good engine, decent in verses. Did play with it a little bit with one of the folks who was there at the show. But, honestly, I mean, it's a little bit disappointing in some respects. Why is this Pensy T1 behaving prototypically? It's number 15 out of 50. Not great. And then the last one in that pile, the other standard card I've got, Ellison I-18. This I think this might be the only consolidation we've made, or the only consolidation in here anyway. This is one of the weird ones with a numbering class and number built that are different values. It's also got an obnoxiously high loco base ID at 16,527, and a typo on the tractive effort, which I did correct by hand. It should say 41,000 pounds and not 14,000 pounds. I remember trying to use that for something and going, hey, this doesn't seem right at all. End up having to look that up. Is loco base ID number being replaced by card number? No, actually. Loco base ID number is going to be represented separately and still matter separately as compared to your card number. I mean, here's my Everett 11. This is one I'm probably not going to use much, but that I don't want to trade away. This also marks the third mogul that I have, so I have a lot of moguls. Kind of small, kind of mediocre number in class 1. But, you know, this ran in Rhode Island, so I can't really get rid of it. Not with a clear conscience. We always have these really cute. Sorry, I just need to paperclip these back together. We always have these really cute. Did you not get an 11, Matt? These little, really cute standard cards. Oh, here's my favorite card. Not because I really love this engine, but because it's the best one I have. And I would love to get my hands on a 1309 one of these days, but I don't have any really high class cards to trade with, so I would have to trade away a couple of cards. This is my 611. This is number 17 out of 20, so it's not like a rare, special, any whatever, but it is, hands down, the best locomotive that I have. It's also probably the best Northern that we've made. I did trade away my 844 and my Timken 1111, so the other Northerns that I've gotten my hands on that have been pretty good, I ended up getting rid of for one reason or another. And this is one that I traded to Dean for. I have a 1361 because I have to. This is number 1, actually. Number 1 out of 40, 1361. Love that. Have not used this at all, but of course it's a Pennsy engine, so it has its benefits. It has an extremely low loco base ID. It is a very high numbering class and number built. It has, big drivers. It has big fuel capacity. It has lots of stuff. You wanted a 4501 and I got it. Well, yeah, it's the trade we made. This is my little engine because I bought one from Gloria. Gloria was selling these for $2 a pop, and well, I got mine for $1 because she likes me, I guess. Smallest engine we have. I mean, if you want to win on weight stats, that's the engine to pull out. So, also 3 out of 10. Anybody in chat have a 90? Oh, Matt, here's one for you. Here's a Northern that I traded for. I traded my 1111 away for a Reading T1. Why? Because I actually really like this photo, because it's a unique photo. It's the only photo of it in this location, in this... Man, if you would focus on that, that'd be really cool, but I guess it just doesn't want to. This is before it was even painted. And yeah, it's not the greatest locomotive when it comes to, when it comes to whatever, when it comes to stats and whatever. But it's still a Northern, and, the Reading T1s are neat. I have this, which I know many people want, and I don't really care for, so if anybody wants a McLeod, give me an offer, alright? I'm not really, I don't really feel like mailing right now, but I could be compelled to mail. Either way, come visit me. And now, my favorite card. If I had to keep one card in all of this, I would probably keep my Skookum. This was the one I was legitimately excited to get when I opened my Batch 2 pack. This is 30 out of 30, too. So, I don't know if you consider that to be good or bad, but those are all the cards I have. I need to assemble a set for Locodome. And yeah, Matt, if you ever make it back up here, we can trade. You and I can trade. Mew, you can get in the party. We can get together and some sort of neutral ground. Maybe we can meet up at Essex and show them a 3025 card if anybody there has one, which I think actually Gloria has one. I don't have a 3025, but Gloria has a 3025. I kind of want one, but I don't really have anything that I would want to get rid of to trade for it. Decent engine, very modern, has some advantages, but I don't think Gloria would take one or even two of my moguls in exchange for it, because I mean, let's face it, Gloria has tons of 89s and tons of 25s and tons of little engines. So,
Are you talking about me?
yeah.
Are you talking about me?
You just spit all over my face.
I am so sorry.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
so sorry. What I wouldn't trade?
You wouldn't trade your 3025 to me for any of the stuff that I'm trying to get rid of.
You have nothing I wanted.
Exactly! That's my point.
You had nothing I wanted.
I was telling the people that you have one. Hi, Audrey.
Hi.
You have one.
Everybody can see us?
Yes. I made the camera
I
big.
look so ugly!
Oh,
No,
stop.
you don't.
Hello.
I'm about to wrap up here anyway. I was just showing off the trading cards before I logged off. So yeah, buy trading cards, I guess. And yeah, Mew, you gotta lay me down what you've got, because I mean, maybe I don't have anything that you want, but you know, still, still do some trading at some point, or some Loco Dome or Loco Versus or whatever. I like the idea of Loco Dome because it's a less deterministic game mode. I'll put myself back down to the corner. Um, Things can go different ways. All right, so we're gonna come back and work on this later. Like I said, I was doing some just a real quick rundown of what I did with the AI before I log off for good, um, which is upgraded the intermodal yard switcher and did a little bit of editing of the yard itself to make sure that the cars get placed up against the buffer stops properly, and so that it can figure its way around the place. I'm counting it now. And I gave this train a loop that should run it. Well, it already goes from here. Where is it? Where is it? Does someone want to load? Where's the passenger train? Oh, there it is. This train, which runs it up, spins the engine around, puts it on the right end of the train, and then brings it back. And the loop starts there while it's in the station. So it can then do that loop infinitely. It just comes here, pulls the engine off, turns the engine, puts the train back over here, then runs back up the line and does the same thing. And then comes back down here. So yeah, it starts up there, it comes here, and then goes back. Comes here, and then goes back. I don't have it set to automatically repeat right now, but it should be doable. Other than that, I just sort of checked some other stuff was copacetic, and the simulation has not reached that point. So hopefully we'll figure that out. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you next week. This is the Admiral